Welcome to Live Your Legacy, where every story holds a turning point, and every turning point holds the power of legacy.
Welcome to Live Your Legacy, where we explore how life's defining moments shape the legacy we leave behind. I'm your host, Patricia D. Freudenberg, also known as Patty from New York. And this show is rooted in a simple truth. Grief is not always about death. Sometimes it comes through life's changes, losses, detours, and new beginnings. And here we speak with entrepreneurs, authors, leaders, and creators who have turned their life's defining moments into meaningful work and lasting contributions, because legacy is not only what we leave behind, it's what we are shaping right now through vision, impact, and purpose. And today I am honored to welcome Holly Totten, who's a nonfiction editor and writing coach who helps people turn their ideas and experiences into clear, compelling stories. With over 30 years of experience, she guides writers in shaping their message so it can connect, build credibility, and serve their purpose. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Live Your Legacy, my friend Holly Totten. For those of who don't know you might not know you very well, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and the work you are doing. Holly, thank you for being here.
Oh, Patty, thank you so much. I am so excited to be on your show. I love all your episodes. I think you do such a great job, and you just bring so much to people. So I'm really be here. So a little bit more about me. I am a retired teacher. I taught for 32 years. I taught English and writing in various different aspects, through my career. And I think that's really where I got not really where I got my love for writing. I got my love from writing from my mother, but I expanded on it and learned so much throughout that portion. And while I was doing that, I also began editing and helping others with their writing. So I think that, with what you've already said, just kind of tells pretty much my background.
Well, we're going to put our scuba gear on because we're going to dive a little deeper today.
All right.
Your legacy. I'm really excited to learn a little bit more. Can you tell the peeps where you're from? Where are you coming in from, Holly?
I'm coming from Whitney, Texas, Central Texas. I live in a very small town. We're in the country. I tell people all the time because I drive like a lot every morning because I take care of my grandkids and I meet them. It takes like 30 minutes to get them, and then I take them back 30 minutes. I hit one stop sign or one red light and pass about 15 cars in that 30 minutes. So that's how far out into nowhere we are. And so, but Central Texas, I love it. It's a blessing to be where we are.
Wow. Well, I share a love for Texas. My daughter lives in Austin, a little bit more populated, but nonetheless, I'm a Texas fan, a Texas lover. Go. I visited a few times now and really love it there. And people like you, well, just awesome. So we're going to get into it. We're eager to find out a little bit more. And this show, I call it like it's the turnaround stories, right? So I'm going to get right into a question, just so we can get right into the story.
I'm ready.
Was there a pivotal moment that changed the direction of your life's work?
There was, Patty. In 2011, I was diagnosed with cancer. Pretty much out of the blue. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was teaching, and I battled that. And I'm just one of those positive people. And I just knew from the beginning that I was going to be okay. Like literally because I was driving and had gone and done the biopsy and the test, and the doctor called, and I answered the phone while I was driving, and he told me that the results were positive, and I lost him because, like I said, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and I lost him signal wise. So I got to where I had another signal. I pulled over and I called him back, and I told him, I said, I'm sorry, I'm driving. I lost you. And he said, oh my goodness, you're driving while I'm telling you this. And I was like, yeah, but I pulled over, So we had our conversation, but I just knew in my heart from that point on that I was going to be okay. But I am the eternal optimist. I just am. That's been my whole life. I am, and all of my friends say I'm the person that finds the silver lining regardless of what's going on. And so, but it was a battle. It really was a battle. And I was teaching school. My daughter was a senior. My son was in college. My husband, was working. Just the whole family vibe going on, and it was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough.
Yeah.
And that was in 2011, and so battled that. And I'm gonna fast forward to 2017, because in 2017, because I came out of that. I did the chemo. I did all the things. I became bald, and all the things that you typically associate with cancer, I did. Um, and I don't know, it's kind of funny because your body and your mind tend to take care of you in things. I remember the positive aspects, and it's crazy to say there were positive aspects about cancer, but there were.
No, people need to hear that.
Yeah, there were. And I have to really make myself bring up the negative aspects, because there were, but there was also so much positive that came forward out of that. And then, but I'm going to fast forward to 2017, because my husband was diagnosed with cancer in 2017.
Oh boy.
Yes. And I'm not going to lie, that was almost more of a kick in the tail than mine, because he's my everything,
Of course,
and,
of course.
and so that was the year that I had my 30 years in on teaching. And he was diagnosed at the beginning of May, and I had not even considered retiring, because I love teaching. That was my life. I loved the aspect of it. And at the beginning of May, he was diagnosed, and we weren't sure what the future was going to hold for us. And so, with overnight, literally sitting in a hospital room with him, we decided I needed to retire. So the next morning, I contacted the Teacher Retirement Association and put in my deal for retirement. And that May, I was retired, still not knowing what our future was, what my future or his, either one, was
So
going
hold
to
that thought. Hold that thought for a minute.
Okay.
You said that a couple times. Now, this is a perfect case in point. Who does?
Well, that's true. That is true.
Right? So with that being said, what was there a revelation, a lesson learned, a personal model that helped guide you through this journey, through this decision that you made together?
There was. And I think it boils down to family over everything. Family and God first always. And everything we did and everything we do is done prayerfully. But family first. And I really had to look at what I needed to do to take care of him and my kids. My kids were in college, freshly out of college. That aspect. My daughter was getting married that summer. There was so much going on. My parents, we had just moved them here that January because my dad was in the process of dying with dementia. There was just so many layers to my life at that point. And having battled cancer myself, I knew what my husband was up against. And I can't tell you how badly I wished it would have been me, because I knew I could handle it.
Yeah.
But I was, and it's not that he's not a strong person, nothing taking away from him, but I knew I could. I wasn't sure he could, because it's a difficult process. And so I think that defining moment was family. You do what you have to do to take care of your family. And in that aspect, for me, it was going ahead and retiring, because like I said, I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if I would widowed, if I would be having to take care of him come fall. And I taught 30 minutes away in a drive, 30 minutes away, which isn't a lot for people living in the metropolitan area. But where I live, it's a drive, you know.
Yeah.
And so there were all these things to consider. So overnight, literally overnight, I made the decision to retire. And so
Wow.
I did. We lost
So,
my dad.
so
That was in May.
oh,
Go ahead. You're going to ask a
no,
question.
no. First of all, I my deepest condolences for the losses. I mean, that's part of life that never feels good. That's just part of life that never feels good. And I'm certain, because I know you a little bit, and I'm very honored to know you, and we became friends, and our common ground. And I know you make good of that. I know you make the best of that. But nonetheless, so now you lose your dad. You retired suddenly. You're not sure what's going to happen with your husband's health. You're barely better, and you're still being a mom, a caretaker. Now what? Now where's the turnaround? Tell us.
Okay.
We're
So
hanging on
the now
cliff
what
here.
is come August, when we kind of knew my husband was going to survive, because it was one of those, his cancer was completely different than mine. His was either he's going to survive or he's not. It was just kind of black and white.
Wow.
It's like 6
Wow.
weeks or he's going to survive.
Wow.
And he did survive, and he's still
Thank God.
with us and thriving and doing well, and we feel so incredibly
Thank God.
blessed. But come August, the school district that I retired from called me back and said, "Would you like to come back part-time?" And and we were at a point where I could, because like I had mentioned earlier, I had not even considered retiring, but I was 52.
Yeah.
I was young, very
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
And so I did go back. I went back for 2 years. My daughter and her son then became pregnant, so I retired to keep grandkids. I retired. I'm a re-re.
Love it.
Retired to keep grandkids. But I also, at that point of my life moving forward, I knew that I still had so much to give to people, because teaching and taking, all of that was just my life. And so I call it my third half of life, because I grew up, got married, had kids, first half, raised my kids, got them out into the world, had my career, retired, second half. Now I step into this third half, and I'm lost. I really was lost. I had no identity. I had and hadn't lost my friends from teaching, but I lost my identity of teaching, with the cohorts and my companions and the people that I worked with, and and my students. I missed my students dearly.
There's grief in that. There's grief in that,
there is,
because you died to your old self. Doesn't mean your old self was bad.
No.
But you're starting a new lifestyle,
Right.
and the person you knew and all the habits you did, it's kind of like there is a grief there.
Yeah,
there is a grief there. And
I
that's
really
and that's the point of this story. We love to hear the turnarounds, because we want to give the people hope. So let's hear it.
How do you move forward from that? And my husband moving forward, we had to make life changes with him, lifestyle changes, I guess, with him, lifestyle changes with me from my cancer. We just had all this to deal with. We had 2 newly married children, brought in 2 new people into our family, started bringing in grandchildren into our family. So there was all these changes that are really no different than anybody else goes through. But how do you deal with them? And I didn't want to be stagnant. I didn't want to just survive. I wanted to continue to give back. So I started a podcast. I started my professional editing business, and stepped into this third half of my life. And I absolutely loved it. And I haven't stopped. I help people share their stories, because I truly, honestly believe that sharing our stories help other people, and they help us. They help us heal, they help us move forward. But you never know. And kind of one of the things I've always said is you never know who needs to hear exactly what you have to say. And if you don't share it, they can't hear it.
Exactly. It's
And
so true.
yeah,
And sometimes somebody could hear something 100 times, and you could be that 101 time that it lands.
right,
Because it's
right,
happened to me. I'm witness. I'm witness. I'm testimony. I'm in the same vein with you. I'm in agreement, and that's why we're here today. We share that love
right,
for
exactly,
spreading awareness, and in hopes that somebody will take a moment and say, hey, I could do it too. If they can do it, I can do it too, because we all
right.
are human, right? And if
Yes,
we're
yes,
human, that means we have the pretty much the capacities, the potentials to get it done too.
yep.
So what would you say to your younger self today?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think I would say don't, and this is kind of sounds cliche, but I would say don't sweat the small stuff, that
Mm,
life is going to be okay. Trust your instinct and move forward, and
I
trust
love
your
that.
love. Trust
I
your
love
love.
that you trusted your instinct, because when you were talking, I love that, you just knew you were going to be all right. That was one thing that stood out to me.
Yeah,
I love that when, you knew you were going to be there for your husband, and you had the years in that you were going to retire. Instinct, you
right.
know, instinct again when it was the grandchildren. So
Mhm.
this is a really strong message. I really like that. I really like that a lot. And I hope, somebody out there, will be able to take that away.
Right.
What wisdom would you want to give to your future self to keep holding on to?
I think my future self needs to really realize that, ooh, I don't know how to put this into words. To keep moving forward. I think as long as we're moving in the right direction. And sometimes we take a step or two back, but then we take a step or two forward. But when you become stagnant is when it stops. And
Mhm.
that's something I remind myself of, because moving in general is the way to be. But you can't move forward unless you're moving.
That's
And
right.
I want to move forward, regardless of where I am in life, what I'm doing in life. I want to continue moving forward with what I have to offer, what I have to give, what I have to help other people with.
I love that. I love that, because when you say it like that, life keeps coming to mind. Life, and it's so
Mhm.
precious. So keep it moving. Keep
Yeah,
it moving.
keep moving.
Okay, here's another one. A little discovery question. Who has been
Okay.
the most memorable mentor in your life, and why? And it might be more than one. And if you want to talk more than one, I know that's a hard question, because it's like, oh, in a lifetime, how do you pick just one? But who comes to mind? Who comes to mind?
Wow. I'm going to say this right off the bat, both of my parents,
Oh,
because I was fortunate enough to grow up in a very loving home with very supportive parents. And my dad always told me that, and it's a quote from Cahill. I'm gonna have to come up with the last name,
it's okay.
but but you were born with the work in your heart. And so, and what you are meant to do was born with it in your heart. And for me, that was always, and as I look back through my life, it was always giving to others, helping others. But since I was tiny, it was through writing. And
Mm,
and that's something that I have continuously done, through my whole life. And typically it has been through writing poetry, writing songs, writing notes, and just whatever it may be to people. And so, and my dad was a musician. He was a musician, but he was also a songwriter. And that really instilled a lot of that in me. But then my mom also was a writer. And
Oh.
she played a beyond huge role in my life. And she was my supporter. She was the one that I always called for any advice, anything that was going on. It was always my mom. And so those two, I think, are top of the list answer to that question. But then I also have to throw my husband in there because
Go for it. I know the list could go on and on, but hey, take your time.
it could, but these three are my top. These are my top. My parents always, and then my husband, because he's just my rock. I don't know how else to even go from there. He's the one that holds me up, through everything. He's been there since I've known him the last 41 years, and
the love
so
story. I love
yeah,
it.
we just recently celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary. A little belated. That's okay.
And so, but I think those three are that's my top answers for that
That's
question.
really, really beautiful. And clearly, they influenced you. Clearly, they influenced you. So that's really, really awesome. That's really, really awesome. So, what does legacy mean to you personally? And again, legacy, it's one of those words that we're hearing a lot lately. I've been talking about it for almost a decade now. However, it just seems to have a lot of meanings. So let's hear yours. What does legacy mean to you, Holly?
Legacy, I think, starts long before we're gone. I think it is the way we live our life. And I think that is intentional in a way. It should be. I don't know that it is with everybody, but I think it should be intentional, because once I'm gone, I hope that the legacy that I leave is one of positivity and love and honor for all of the things that I believe, and the people that have influenced me, and the people that I love. And it's something that I hope they can grasp onto and carry forward.
It's really beautiful.
So I really think that's what legacy means to me. I think it starts long before it ever happens.
That's really beautiful. I like it said in those words, and I'm in agreement, in alignment with the overall meaning and the way you shared it. But I've never heard it said that way.
Oh,
that's very beautiful. I love that you said it that way. So thank you for gifting that to us and the world and me, because I really, really love that. That was really beautiful. So this is in alignment with that question. But what do you hope people remember most about the way you lived, worked, or served?
Wow. I really hope that people remember me in a loving way, that I loved them, that I lifted them up. That's what I strive to do. And I know I fall short, because we always do. But I really hope that I serve people, and I hope that's what they remember.
Well, I know you, and I don't see you falling short, but that's a different story. I know nobody's perfect, and I know what you meant by that. But I just love you so much. I adore you. You're an amazing woman. You're doing great work in the world. If you can do it all again, would you change anything, or did every part of your journey have a purpose, even the tough stuff?
Ooh, even the tough stuff. I think especially the tough stuff, because like I said at the very beginning, I think our bodies and our brains protect us from the negative that we go through. It's kind of like for women that have had childbirth, you don't remember that pain, but you just remember the joy and all of the good things. And even through cancer and losing my parents, even though my mom was very recent, I just remember the good. And that could be my choosing. But I also think our bodies and our brains are built to protect us in that. And so I really don't think I would change I can't think of anything I would change. Um, no,
I love it.
I don't. I'm trying to grasp something, but
No, but you know what I love about your answer? For me, it's gratitude. You
yeah.
know, you got through it. You're a survivor. You have faith.
Mhm.
You have love, and
Yeah,
yeah, you
and you
just
just
I
move
love it.
forward.
You know,
You just move forward. That's what you've got to move. Keep moving
yeah, yeah.
one
You're
way or the
putting your
other.
money where your mouth is. I'm telling
That's
you. So, what is something about your journey that most people would be surprised to learn? Secret time.
to be surprised. Wow. I think people would be surprised to learn that I really I contemplate over everything. And in contemplate, I'm gonna say, and I may be way off base here, but I think I'm pretty close on that. I worry, I concern myself with others' feelings so much that there's times when I really have to guard myself and say, okay, that's out of my hands. I can't continue to worry about that. I can't continue to think about. I've got to go on. And I don't know that people know the depth of that with me sometimes. Does that make sense at all?
It does make sense. So, you're being very vulnerable now, and thank you for sharing that, because sometimes when we're doing so many things and we hold it all together, sometimes it's good to put a little light on the stuff that might not be so obvious, right?
Right. Right.
But you're human too, right? You're human too. You're sensitive too, right? You're compassionate too. And even though sometimes when you're in business and you're a powerhouse, it might seem like, oh, she's so tough, she can handle it. But when you're sensitive, and we can't, right? We
Right.
can't always make everybody happy, whether it's our children, our mothers, our brothers, our sisters. So that was
Right.
beautiful. That was beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you for letting us into your heart,
Mhm.
and that really is lovely, really, really lovely. And I appreciate your vulnerability. Again, it might land with somebody and just totally, just be a catalyst for goodness sake. So
Right.
we're gonna now pivot a little bit to more of what you're doing lately. Let's talk a little
Okay.
bit more about. You mentioned the podcast. Let's hear a little bit more about
Mhm.
it. I'm gonna bring up your website too, and
Okay.
where people could find you. And we do have some comments as well. Let's see some comments here. We got some comments. I'm looking forward to this talk. Thank you so
Aw.
much. You're amazing. All right, we got some love going on. They're loving what you're saying. Holly, you got some fans here. Mosaic Sparks, you can tell that you lean on your faith.
Mm,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's
100%.
really, really beautiful. Oh, thank you. And look, they're really loving what you're sharing. They're really, really loving what you're sharing. I'm going to put on the screen here your website. Here's your profile. I'm just going to scroll up and then we'll scroll back to the top. But here, check out the articles. We got some coaching that you do. You're going to be having a podcast. Be on the lookout. I would say, follow Holly on all the socials. Let's bring some socials up here. Let's get some socials going on here. And again, we got 30 years of experience. Talk a little bit about the website and talk a little bit about your podcast, Holly. I'm
Okay.
turning over to you.
Perfect. Okay. So, my podcast, I had mentioned that I started one earlier, and I did, and it was geared towards women approaching that third half of life, because I was searching for help in knowing what to do and how to navigate and where to go once I retired, helping my husband battle through the cancer after I had battled through cancer, being empty nesters, all the things. And I couldn't find what I needed. So I thought, I'm going to be what I needed. So I stepped into that and I did that. And I absolutely loved it. I had a great following, did great. Um, but at a certain point, it was done. I felt like that chapter had been written. And so now I'm going into a podcast called The Edit, which will come out in early May, if not sooner, but probably early May. And it is geared towards my love of helping people share their stories, writing coaching, editing, and it's talking to authors and entrepreneurs and business owners and people that need to share their story, because I so strongly believe, and I said this earlier, that you never know who needs to hear exactly what you have to say. And if you're not sharing it, they're not going to hear it. And so that's what the new podcast is geared towards. And it's called The Edit. And it, like I said, look for it later this month, early May at the latest. And with my website, you will find the things that I offer. I do offer writing coaching. I offer editing services. And then I also have something called Gathered with Purpose, where I do a collaborative book for nonprofits and service organizations, where the people that are involved in those each write a chapter to tell the impact that their service or their nonprofit has had on them and on their community. And it is a beautiful work once it is all compiled and put together.
Wow. Wow, that's really, really awesome. You see, I just learned something new. I thought I knew you well. I didn't know that little piece. Thank you for sharing that. I'm kind of like, I'm like, wow, let's talk. Okay. So also, one more thing. Hold on, I'm getting a thing here. When you go to do your podcast, where are we going to be able to listen to you? Do you have that lined up yet?
I do. It will be on it's audio only at this point. I may eventually go into YouTube or like you're doing live. I'm not sure about that yet, but I do know it will be audio with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that you typically find your podcast. My old podcast was called Teaching Yourself to Learn, and it is still active and viable. So if anybody is interested in that, they're welcome to search that and find those episodes. There's 94 episodes, I believe.
Nice.
And it is on all the places. And it's I think it was a good podcast. So.
Absolutely. I remember checking it out, and it's up there in numbers. So, it's very, very popular. So you definitely were serving the people. So thank you for that. And where do you hang out? Where do you like to have a little playtime? On Facebook, on Instagram? Where can we find you?
I like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, all three. My face and my website, of course, but Rightly Notable or Holly Totten, either one is where you'll find me on socials. So
very good, very good. Mm-hmm. So with the show coming to an end, we want to say thank you so much. I hope the viewers enjoyed you. I hope the listeners enjoyed you. And can you give us a closing remark? Give us something to walk away with before we wrap it up here, Holly. And again, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And thank you for your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. And, I'm going to tie it into what I've said all along or throughout this whole thing is you have to keep moving. It regardless, and because I'm older, and I'll be the first to admit it, I'm never afraid of my age. My Meemaw used to always tell me, never be afraid of your age, because the alternative is not so good. And that's true. When you think about
words of wisdom, gotta love them.
Yes,
gotta
exactly.
love them.
But moving forward, keep going, do what's in your heart, and share your story, because somebody needs to hear what you have to say. You're going to help somebody with your story.
Wow. Thank you so much.
That's it.
You're awesome. The students that had you as a teacher were very blessed. I must say that just from how much I know you, they're very, very blessed students. So thank you again, Holly. Again, if you did not follow Holly, you could also find her on Live Your Legacy. All her social are right there, whether it's the website, Facebook, Instagram, upcoming podcasts. Go to livelegacy.vip for vision, impact, and purpose. That's Live Legacy, livelegacy.vip, whichever way you want to have it. And check out this episode with Holly Totten. She is amazing. We ask you to support the shows, and we thank you for viewing. This was brought to you by Miss You Graham, a global solution to cope with grief, mourning at the speed of life. And this show is Live Your Legacy. And with that being said, we'll see you next time. Thank you, Holly, and God bless.
Thank you, Patty. God bless
You're
you.
welcome.
And every turning point holds the power of legacy. Every step, every scar, every choice.